I suppose I should maybe say a little bit about that film. Um, the working title for the film wasn't K364. The working title was Jews Go Home, which was a kind of a running bad joke. That we could sell the T-shirts for the movie before we made the movie. We could sell them to the Nazis and get the money to raise the money to shoot the film. And several friends of mine told me this wasn't such a great idea. All my Jewish friends thought it was fantastic. But my mum was a bit disappointed in me. She said it was a bit too bitter. So I changed the title to K364, which obviously set up a whole idea that everything in the film could be codified to some extent. The film really happened quite quickly. About 3 years ago. I tend to do things, I'm very, very slow, and then something will happen really quick. So, I left New York about 3 years ago, fell in love with an Israeli girl who lives in Berlin. We had a baby very quickly. And in a way, the film was kind of made as some kind of a portrait of a journey that my daughter will make in the future. My daughter, Lily, is a little Jewish girl born in Berlin on German Reunification Day. Jew power. But I imagine that for a girl like that, who will grow up and be a Jewish woman born in Berlin, she'll probably make exactly the same journey that I made, which of course has a much more tragic history in terms of the journeys that were forced on people. And actually, a journalist in Italy asked me, wasn't it such a cliche to use these images of the train? And I said, it's not a fucking cliche, it's a fucking reality. If you go from Berlin to Poland, you take the same fucking train. And that shut him up.
I want to ask you if music is very important to you, and if it is, how you use it in your films. Like, of course, I see this one, and how it connects to you, how it relates to you.
This year, I've made 2 films, one with Rufus Wainwright, one with this Mozart piece. The other sculpture I did was to commission Mogwai to write a symphony for a landscape. So it's pretty important, music. If Mogwai had asked me to make a film on them, then I probably wouldn't have made this one. So, we actually, when I was doing the first couple of edits of the film, it was a lot of musicians who came and, gave me their comments on things. And actually Barry from Mogwai, who lives round the corner from me in Berlin, kind of gave me some tips and hints on how to do the mix.
Hello. Can you tell me a little bit about the formal structure? What helped you decide the cuts and what you were focusing at each point during the concert mainly?
During the concert part, actually, we were quite limited in terms of what we could do formally, because we did one take of dress rehearsal and one take of the live concert. So that only really gave us only gave us 2 options for each camera. And I like working in that way, because I think let's say that for Zidane we had 17 cameras, it was a fucking nightmare trying to edit this thing. And I thought, okay, since I don't have the benefit of Philippe Perreno's intelligence on this one, I'll try to make it as, formally pretty concrete actually, so that there's not a lot of flexibility when it comes down to the editing.
Now you're talking about the split screen. I just want to know if it was your first idea or if you edited it differently, because sometimes the split screen looks like a mirror from each other. and that looks amazing. But it was your first idea, or did you change your mind?
The truth, the truth. It was my first idea, yeah. I mean, it made some sense. Two musicians, two cameras, two perspectives. And, a lot of the other work that I do, especially the museum kind of stuff or whatever, I have an obsession with symmetry, mirror, doppelganger, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. It's what you get if you grow up in Scotland. I can't. It's very difficult to escape. But I think I was very happy with. I mean, actually, the placement of the cameras was really something of necessity rather than choice, because you do realize that when when this was the same when I was working with Zidane. I think one of the reasons why Zidane worked well and why this does work well is that the musicians and the footballers didn't really give a damn. They just did their normal thing. And rather than try to be best pals with Zidane, it was better to just be a fellow traveller in a way. Don't get in the way of the job. And it sounds a bit blunt when you talk about things as a job, because obviously the way that someone like Zidane would play football is really a thing of some beauty. And I think that the way these musicians are playing, it is something that can send you off into a different state, whether it's sleep or not. But in the end, they are doing a very, very special job, but the job has to be done. So when we turned up in Warsaw, the musicians just didn't give a shit about where our cameras were, because they're the orchestra, and to try to get an orchestra to move, like everybody, could you move a little bit to the left? And they will not listen. So we really, if you imagine that the stage was probably from about here to about here, and that's a chamber orchestra with two soloists, and my camera guys were like here, like really on the edge, like at this side and that side. It was the only space that we had, so there was a necessity. It was out of necessity that the idea for the split screen came, actually.
You were talking about the color correction, and I was curious about the color. It seems to be a bit desaturated. Why the choice of that?
It's a shame that you didn't see it on a different screen with a different projector. This projector's not very. The projector's frankly not very good. And there are parts of it which are out of focus, which is not deliberate. And there are points where it was funny when I came in, especially because I hadn't been feeling too well. I thought, Jesus Christ, Avery's blood pressure has gone through the roof, because he was all red and stuff, and it shouldn't be. I wanted them to look half dead, not as if they were about to have a heart attack. So these weren't. This wouldn't be. I wouldn't call this the ideal sort of
There's always room for improvement.
Yeah. That if you imagine it's much better, it's kind of. But I know the color correction thing. I mean, it really was very heavily desaturated. There shouldn't be rosy-cheeked people in my films. I don't want people to look alive and happy. I want them to look as if they, when I made this other thing called feature film with James Conlon, and we did the color correction for that, I said to my color correcting guy, I want him to look as if he's been outside in the cold for about an hour too long, and then we bring him into a restaurant for about a half an hour, and he gets all the blood back. Then we take him back outside. So he looks kind of vaguely upset and disoriented, and you have to get that in that skin tone. And he seemed to understand me. And when we did the color correction for this, you know, what I would say, I don't really need to see the eye, but I'd like a very heavy eye socket. And within the eye socket, you know that there's an eye in there somewhere. But I didn't, you know, everybody, you know, when you do a standard, you know, there are industry standards. And my color correcting guy was saying, oh, no. This will never get onto TV. You've gone way too far with this. And I said, okay, more. And I want it to be blacker and blacker. And he said, look, I'm going to have to make you sign a little thing so that you don't come back and say, you know, it was your fault that you couldn't sell it to television.
Hi, thank you. As I can remember, I saw when work of, I think it was in London, and you were a finalist of Turner Prize. You don't mind to, because I don't remember very well. I just remember two arms, I think, were your arms, yes. If you don't mind to tell on your words to us.
What it was all about?
Yeah. I think it was something between man and woman.
There is a good story behind that piece. The piece that he's talking about was called...
You should know.
it was called A Divided Self 1 and A Divided Self 2. And actually, that idea came to me on a beach in Portugal. When I was kind of, you know, I had a kind of an existential experience lying on the beach after too much vino verde. No. But no, I was lying on the beach and I was kind of looking at my arm, and I kind of had like an Albert Camus type of moment when I'm looking at my arm, and it suddenly became not my arm anymore. And then I was looking at my girlfriend's arm, and suddenly her arm was not part of her body and stuff. And I knew that I had to go leave this nice beach experience and go back and come up with something for the Turner Prize. While I was lying on the beach, an old woman who lives in my street was murdered. This is all connected, really. There's an old woman is murdered, and the suspect is a white male around the age of 30, which I was around that time. So when I get back to Glasgow, and I'm looking through my mail, all my posts and stuff, and there's like silly postcards and stuff, and then there's a card that says, from the police, you know, we are doing DNA testing on all males aged whatever. So I call up the cops and I say, can I speak to Sergeant McGregor or something? And they say, oh, Sergeant McGregor won't be in until 4 o'clock. And I said, so that means he won't come to do my DNA testing, right, until after 4? They said, yes, that's what we're saying. So I think, okay, now I can make my work for the Turner Prize. So I have to kind of demonstrate this. So it's difficult to demonstrate it with a microphone. But what I did was the video piece is basically my left arm having been completely shaved. And I didn't have any tattoos on this part of my body anyway. So this side was as hairy as it is now, and this was completely shaved, and one hand is wrestling the other, and it looks like two people. The funny part of the story is I'm completely shaved head, and I've got my shaving foam all over my arm, and I'm about to start the thing, and I've set up like a little tiny bed of pillows and stuff on which I'm going to film the thing. So if you imagine my living room, there's a little bed about the size of a child's body, a video camera, and some lights, and I've got my arm all ready, and the doorbell goes, and I open it up, and there's Sergeant Wilson. He just thought he would pop by. And he said, hello, hello, hello. What's going on here then? And I couldn't really say go away and come back. So then he comes in, sees this like mini porno setup thing. And anyway, I lived to tell the tale, sort of thing.
Traveling with the both interpreters, did you get to a point you couldn't hear their instruments anymore?
Me?
Yeah.
No. I mean, this is one of the reasons why why I asked Roy, for instance, the question about the history of of the instrument, because this will be a complete contradiction to what I just said, that musicians actually can be quite, well, they're not cynical, but they're very pragmatic, where I could be very romantic and imagine that there's a residual power because of the history of the instrument, etc. I can afford that. They can't afford to think like that. So there's a kind of there was a nice balance between my romanticism and stupidity and their rational desire to do the best that they can, rather than be shit and say, but the instrument's good, kind of thing. So that worked, there was a nice balance. Well, thank you everyone for staying. Thank you to Alexander. See ya.